Whoever wants. I thought Dijon was going to. Dijon, are you gonna do the amendment of the agenda for all those consent items? Madam Clerk, are we live? Good evening, calling the regular city council meeting of August 7th to order. I'd like to excuse our Mayor Welch. He is home recuperating. And we ask that you keep him in your prayers and thoughts while he is getting better. We will go ahead and take the roll, Madam Clerk.
All right, Mr. Keller,
Here.
Mrs. Clock,
Here.
Mr. Kermer,
Here.
Mr. Skips,
Here.
Mrs. Welch, here, Mr. Jacobson.
Here. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then afterwards, please remain standing, and Ms. Ina Welch will give our invocation.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, we come before you tonight as the city council. We're doing the bidding of the city for the best of our citizens and those who interact with us. We ask that you keep all our first responders, our police, our firefighters, and those who work with the public works and everything in the city, that you keep them in your hand, guide them to do the right thing at all times. And then also we ask that you give us the right answers when we do have to make decisions in this. We ask you also to keep your hand over the mayor tonight as he's dealing with some medical issues. He will be going to the doctor tomorrow. And so that he gets good results from that and quick recovery. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mrs. Welch. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Dijon, seconded by Ino.
I move to amend what's the word? Consent on item B, C, D, and E.
Okay, so under new business, we would consent item B, resolution 2310, item C, resolution 2311, item D, resolution 2312, and item E, approval of services contract with Graham Construction for painting of the candy cane. Did we include G?
Did not in our
No,
discussion.
no.
So we'll just go ahead and just do it.
So it'd
regular.
be E and F?
Hmm?
We're considering the E, F and G as well?
That was not in discussion
Okay,
before, but
Still can. It's
yeah, we
a-
still can.
yeah, let's,
He's presenting it.
And G.
You want to do F two?
I can't. No, my thing like it fell off where my.
All right, so I guess
On
we're
the
gonna
screen.
add F and G to consent and just discuss A.
I
On
second.
the motion to amend the agenda,
Sorry.
new business moving items B through G to consent. Please call the roll.
All right, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
yes.
Mr. Kermer,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes. Anyone wish to change their vote? On the main motion of the agenda as amended, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
Yes.
Mr. Kermer,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes. The agenda is approved as amended. Next, we have the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes from last meeting, 7/24.
Moved by Anton and seconded by Mrs. Clack.
All right, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
Yes.
Mr. Kermer,
Yes.
Mr. Skips, Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Anyone wish to change your vote? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Communications from the mayor. Chief, are we ready at this time? Chief Dutra? You're gonna handle all of this, right? I don't have a role in this, please, right?
Okay. Discussing A, correct?
No, we are swearing in of new Northville Police Department officers.
And under my department head comments.
Mayor's
It's on the agenda under communications from the mayor. That's where we
gotcha.
are on the agenda. But we can,
Are you still available?
I'm ready.
I'm sorry.
They're here.
It's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
So,
you.
first off, I'd like to introduce Detective Cash. Gonna come forward. And,
This is Cash.
you got his badge? Okay. All right, so Detective Cash comes to us with about 15 years' experience from various departments and some detective work in the drug unit and some other detective work. So we're proud to have him here working for us, and his lovely wife's going to put his badge on him and after we swear him in, so.
So Detective Cash and Mrs. Cash, if you'd come and just shake our hands and introduce ourselves. Welcome. Thank you for this.
All right, next up, Sergeant Temple. He comes from Alabama with 19 years of experience. Which is lovely. Anyway, we're proud. It'd be the first time we've ever promoted or brought somebody in from the outside, promoted him directly to sergeant, and he's doing a fantastic job. So super excited. Thankful that he's excited. Good. For a minute. Michael Temple. Only for in the Constitution, United States. I will faithfully discharge my duties as a police officer to the best of my ability.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh. The one time she gets to do it for free.
We're moving all the way north.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Congratulations. All right, last person I'd like to introduce is Chris Illingsworth. Please come forward. We're not going to swear him in, but I certainly want to introduce him to the council. So Mr. I, as everybody knows him, he's worked at North Pole Elementary for over 30 years, and He's decided to come on as our new public safety assistant, and we hope to give you lots of good news about all the great things he's going to be doing from this day forward. So I'd like to introduce you to Chris Hollingsworth. So if you'd like to shake hands with the council.
Exciting, exciting.
Thank you.
Different capacity now, huh?
We'd like to thank the families for coming in and supporting their families in the police officers.
Madam Clerk and Chief Dutra, I am sending you pictures that I took of the swearing in so that
thank
you could have them for your records and on our website. As far as communications from the mayor, there were some emails that came, I think, to all of us. I think I just will briefly go over that. And that is, if you are interested in the registering for the Alaska Defense Forum, that is going to be an event that's Tuesday and Wednesday, August 29th through and 30th at the Westmark Hotel. So that is something that I believe registration is still open. Is there a cost to this, Madam Clerk? Do you know?
Yes, it's $100.
$100, which the city will pay if you are interested in that.
Absolutely. Let me know.
Most of the tours to the bases and stuff like that have already been filled, but there still is the forum that you can attend.
I was gonna say, did the research close? I think that was on the 5th for UAF. I think the research one, I thought I got an email on that that said the 5th was when that one for UAF was closing. For the,
Okay.
to go through there and look at the naval aspect, military, the research, but I think that closed on the 5th, according to the email that I got from her.
Yeah, I was thinking of the base, the tour of Eielson Air Force Base that was closed.
Yeah.
And then also to mark on your calendar, the 53rd Military Appreciation Banquet is coming up. And that will be on Thursday, August 24th at the Carlson Center at 6 p.m. reception, 7 p.m. program start, formal dress. This is an opportunity for community members to sit at tables with military individuals and their spouses and get to know them. It's a way that our community has welcomed the military into our community and building relationships and friendships that way. There's also recognition for distinguished service to our community by both community members and also military members. If anyone is interested in attending that, just see Madam Clerk for the tickets for that. And in the past, I think when you bought a ticket, they assigned you specifically a name of a military personnel that would be sitting at your table, and you would be getting to know each other, basically. So it's a very worthwhile event. And then the other thing that we have is just that we got the PFAS update from the Eielson Air Force Base regarding the plume out in Moose Creek. And there was a slideshow. There was also a newsletter and talking about that. Did anyone have any questions about that information? Madam Clerk, is this something that we want to put on our website so people can
I
have
certainly can.
access to that?
Sure.
I think that'd be good because it says, as a subject matter, Air Force newsletter to address concerns raised by North Pole residents. So I think this would be helpful to get that information out to them, both the newsletter and the slideshow, and anything from the email that might be, I don't think you have to put the whole email, but there might be bits and pieces that introduce the topic. And Mr. Wallace, is there anything that you would want to add to that? You could work with Mrs. or Ms. Dion about that, but. Okay. I think that does it for mayor's communications. We'll move on to council member questions of the mayor. We'll now move on to citizens' comments. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to come up and address the council, you have 5 minutes. Madam Clerk, is there anyone that signed up on?
No, there's not.
Okay, is there anyone online?
Nope.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to come up and address the council? Right. And with that, citizens' comments are closed. We'll now move on to communications from department heads. And we'll start off with the fire department, and then we'll do the public works, public services, and finance and police and clerk. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anyone this time.
Borough.
Good evening, council members and public. So tonight I want to take my opportunity, my time for my normal report and just do a really brief presentation on the recruiting and retention goals that the fire department has been putting together. Some of these goals are starting to pop up during like the committee. We had the compensation committee. It'll definitely come up as we start the budget process. So I wanted to get these ideas in front of you as a whole, so you're not hearing it piecemeal as it's coming in. This is meant to just be a brief overview. I could probably talk on this for well over an hour or so. So this is going to be really brief, and I welcome you to get a hold of me anytime, and we can sit down one-on-one or in another committee meeting and go over things in more detail if you'd like to. Unless I'm going to have you change the slides. So if you can, just 4 slides. So this is kind of a 3-part process that we've kind of narrowed down to for the big parts of recruitment and retention for the fire department. You know, we definitely have a retention issue at the fire department. The last 4 to 5 months, we've lost 3 of our younger personnel. For the kind of the same ongoing reasons we've been seeing over the years is most of them use us as a stepping stone to get into the career, and then they're actually never intended to stay. They actually intend to try to go back home and work at a fire department wherever they came from down south usually. So the first thing on our first goal that we're really going to attack some of this with is just a combination of a change in the way we pay our firefighters overtime, which would naturally increase their annual salary. So without even adjusting an hourly pay rate, our current overtime calculation is done on a 19-day FLSA firefighter cycle. So every 19 days, our firefighters work, and they have to meet 144 hours of work time before overtime is accrued. It's worked this way for over 30 years here at the city of North Pole, and it has been extremely frustrating and extremely confusing for our staff and for admin personnel trying to schedule and coordinate and make sure overtime benefits are being paid when they should. I know our accountant staff, Trish and her staff, have done amazing to keep up with this, but it is extremely hard to manage and to make sure there's no errors. And we know that if you have an error in somebody's payroll, that's a morale problem to begin with. So our projection is to finally switch our fire department over to a 14-day FLSA cycle. And that would coincide with our paydays. Every 14 days, a payday comes to an end. Our overtime cycle would come to an end. And how that works is it would basically account anything over 106 hours in that 14-day cycle that our firefighters work would be overtime. What that naturally does, though, is the way our shifts work is they would make overtime on a regular basis every 2 pay periods, and then there would be a pay period where there wasn't naturally overtime built into it. That increases their annual income, depending on what their pay rate is. When rough estimates, you know, it could be a $4,000 to $8,000 difference in their annual pay rate, depending on what rank they're at. So that's our first goal, is to possibly during this compensation committee and this next budget cycle to budget the change in 2024 to this 14-day cycle. I know my staff are fully supportive of this, the frustrations they have of wondering if they're going to get their overtime. It's confusing, and we can look at a calendar, but there's actually times with the way the calendar falls that if I have a firefighter work overtime today, they might not get that overtime pay for 2, maybe 3 paid periods, because of the way that 19-day fell into the calendar. And it's very hard for them to track, and they get frustrated when they're not seeing the appropriate pay. So it will absolutely improve morale, and it should help with some overall retention, just making it easier and also paying them a little bit more of an annual rate. Next slide. So our goal number 2 is something that we've talked about at North Pole Fire Department for quite a few years. Some of our good staff members over the years are great medics, and we have paramedics and we have advanced EMT medics. But the paramedic license is the gold standard that they really want to achieve and have. Unfortunately, once they're hired full-time as an employee with North Pole Fire Department, we've never had an avenue to actually allow them to take paramedic licensing schooling. It takes about 12 months of schooling. And by the time you're done with it, and it's just something we've not been able to do with current staff. So if we hire a staff member, we can put them through the EMT system up to an advanced EMT, which is below a paramedic, but we've got no avenue for them to get a paramedic license. We've experienced, which our last person that left us, Mr. Ian Watson, is going to paramedic school and is back in his hometown. Good for him. I'm glad to see him doing it, but it was unfortunate we didn't have a way to offer that to him ourselves to try to get him to stay employed with North Pole. So we've looked into different ways of doing it. There is a paramedic academy here at the university that is one option. It's a little bit harder to do and stay working, their normal shifts. But the one thing we have discovered is the National Medical Education and Training Center. It's based on the East Coast. They do a remote learning program that's a 12-month program. And there's the ability to really keep the employee on staff working their normal shifts along with completing the schooling. We just had one of our volunteers put herself through that program and just finished it. And with her knowledge of the program, and then also talking to some of our colleagues from Juneau's Capital City Fire and Rescue who use this system primarily for their paramedics, it sounds like it would be a really good option. And it's something that we were looking at budgeting for the 2024 budget year to be able to allow one staff member, in the way it would probably is one staff member a year, maybe every 2 years, be able to send to paramedic school. We would have some loss of time, they have to have travel time back east to Boston area for part of this, and then the final externship that has to happen, so there's definitely some backfill and coverage, but it's actually a fairly economic way for us to provide this opportunity to our staff. And we have multiple staff that have asked us over the years, hey, is there any way the city can send me to get a paramedic license?
So what would be the estimated cost to do one per employee a year?
With backfill and everything, I haven't figured that out. The actual school itself, looking at right around $13,000 for one student for that year, which it was actually much less than I thought it was going to come to when we first looked into it. I honestly think we could probably expect $25,000 to $30,000 total cost per employee to send by the time we're paying back wages to fill them when they are gone, and and other expenses that are going to pop up. We're going to iron more of the details out before the budget process when we add that to our training budget.
Mrs. Welch?
So if you're sending them off, like, for example, if we send police officers down, if they don't fulfill a certain amount of contract, am I correct? And then they owe that academy cost back. Is that something that you will do to have them on the hook for at least a certain amount of
that
years?
question. Yeah, we've actually have capital cities. They have a contract that is very similar that they use, and we're looking at that, and we would run that through, through our legal Zane Wilson, to have that contract approved. And it's just that it's prorated up to, I believe, 5 or 6 years, depending on how far they work into it, and after 6 years, there would be no expectation of any reimbursement, but it's a prorated system that would work really well, I think. So. And then, what's there, the final slide? The last one, and this is the big one actually, that we've really been hoping for the last, well, since before COVID, we actually started talking about this stuff. Like I mentioned, a lot of our recruitment and retention issue is we can recruit, but these amazing people that we're recruiting usually come from out of town. We are blessed in the interior of Alaska Fire Service. We have University CTC program. It is a top-notch firefighting training program for getting your degree in fire science. It draws amazing people from all over the country every year. They're just finishing a 30-person academy from their summer academy. They're going to do another one this fall that's probably going to be 30 people. They're amazing, but they draw people from Washington, California, Denver, East Coast. And when these people are done with their schooling here, they look at the interior fire departments, including us at North Pole, for immediate employment opportunities while they're looking for that job back home. We hire them a lot. They're amazing people. I love our employees. I just wish we could hold them a little bit longer in the state, but they move on. So our plan is to try to start drawing a little bit more of a percentage from our local schools, getting our graduating seniors into emergency services. And that way we might have some employees that are a little bit more rooted and more likely to stay with us more than a couple of years as they get their base resume built so they can apply for elsewhere. The way these apprentices work is there'd be a 12-month apprentice where we would hire 3 apprentices. It's a 12-month apprenticeship that starts in June. So after graduation, ideally we would hire 3 graduating seniors from North Pole High School, ideally, right here from our hometown. The first 7 months would be the firefighter academy that'd take them June through December. And then January through May, they would go into an advanced EMS apprenticeship. And what that does for them is it gives them a paycheck coming out of school immediately. It's an apprenticeship job. We put them to work. They work shift with our staff and they go through and they end up coming out with the basic certification levels they need for full-time employment with us or other departments within the interior. Or if they did want to look outside, which I'm sure not everybody that graduates North Pole High School wants to stay in North Pole, but it would give them, good roots to look into their career. And if we did this annually, it would kind of be our farm team to hire our full-time staff through, is the way we're looking at it. It gives us an opportunity to train them the way we want them to perform. So we know their training levels and their performance levels. And when we have full-time openings throughout the year, we could possibly use apprentice firefighters to move immediately into full-time positions. There is a cost because we're paying these apprentices. It'd be like a trades apprenticeship type of thing. And at the recruit firefighter rate that we put into the pay scale 2 years ago, it's approximately $49,000 an apprentice. So we're looking at about $150,000 a year program for the fire department to hire 3 of these every May. We have talked with the school district with this program and then also encouraging them to develop programs within the school for the juniors and seniors that would draw good candidates right into these programs. So yeah, we look forward to working with the school district a little bit more for their side of developing that would lead them right into these apprenticeships. That is all I have for this presentation. I can take any questions.
Mrs. Welch?
So these will not be regular employees, then they wouldn't be all the other benefits.
Yeah, they would be a seasonal employee. It'd be 2 different apprenticeships. Basically, the firefighter one would be the first one, and then the EMS one immediately after that. And they'd be considered seasonal employees. So yeah, they wouldn't be a fully benefited employee is what we're envisioning. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So it's basically growing our own. Dijon?
So if you put somebody through paramedic school,
Mhm.
are you gonna have like a clause that you need to stay like 2 years after you take the program? Or, people are gonna take the paramedic program and then leave us for somewhere else.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do to legally bind them to have to stay with us, but like I'd said, we're looking at contracts that other fire departments use that prorate to where they have to reimburse the costs of their training. We can't ask for reimbursement for salaries or anything like that. But that $12,000, $13,000 of tuition that we would pay would possibly be able to recover some of that on a prorated basis.
We do the same thing when employees in different departments are trying to get higher education degrees. The city will help to pay their tuition costs and their courses costs. But there's a caveat, which is they have to remain employed with the city X number of months or years, or they have to pay back that tuition reimbursement on a prorated basis. So it would be following that same kind of program.
Yeah, it's already in city code that exists, and we would do a specific contract for this paramedic because we want to make sure upfront that these employees know what they're signing up for.
It could mean that if somebody wants to steal them away from us, they could pay, as we also probably could do the same thing. If we wanted to hire somebody who had maybe 2 years left of a contract, that could be, I think we might have done that at one point as a incentive for them to come.
Yeah, it's
we
getting
pay-
very competitive, just
Yeah.
like law enforcement, fire service,
Yeah.
employee.
Military does it
you know,
sometimes too.
We
Get-
call it, like when Anchorage Fire Department hires, we call it, oh no, here comes the switch, because a bunch of people from the interior go to Anchorage and then all the fire departments in the interior start switching employees. It happens very regularly. So,
Thank you, Chief Hannikin.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wallace, once again.
I'll cover a few special topics in the three departments. For Moose Creek, we're continuing to work towards the final months of this project, which ends on October 30th of this year. And we anticipate final bills from HC will be submitted this month. We're also pursuing funding for critical spare parts for the pump house, and that list is being compiled by HC, and we'll order those later this month. For the combined heat and power plant, our twice monthly meeting is scheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow. We do this over Zoom, and we'll discuss public-private partnership options for funding from a company called Harrison Street, which was recommended by Respect. They helped us make the connection to a public-private funding partner. We'll also tentatively participate in a working group meeting at Chena Hot Springs on Monday, a week from today, right after the Renewable Energy Fair. And just to emphasize that these are brainstorming, information sharing sessions. They're certainly not anything committing the city to anything, but we are trying to look at options to fund that combined heat and power plant project and then present that back to the council and the citizens. For the community survey, most of you probably have been exposed to that. Owen, our municipal intern, continues to work on that. He designed it and he will do the analysis on it, and he's collecting data right now. We've had about 42 online responses, which at this point, that's actually pretty good. But we've also mailed out hard copies of the survey to everyone in the city limits. And we'll see how those responses go. This remains on track, and we think we're going to have results and analysis by the end of the month. For the building department, July as was expected, was a busy month for building permits. We received 7 permit requests during July, or 7 permit requests for family homes in July for the Stryker Loop area, and a building permit request for an 11-plex in Stone Point Court, and all of these are by Stepping Stone Construction and Rick Watson. For Public Works, beautification efforts continue to include, as everyone see, the resealing of the parking lot that was just opened back up today. You'll see that parking spaces have shifted to include handicap parking relocated closer to the entrance. The parking spaces along the COVID wing will also be marked as city administrative vehicle use. We'll also plan to have parking bumpers installed to prevent any vehicles from hitting the buildings or ending up in the slough. For the streetlight installations, they've shifted again. They're doing pile driving and pile caps. I don't think they've put up any posts yet, but that is on track, and they are again, as you can see throughout the city. And we've also had some citizen feedback on mowing operations throughout the city. Right now, the focus is clearing intersections, and actually up until last week, the focus for the public works folks was sealing the parking lot. But right now, the focus is clearing intersections and right of ways and ditches, so mowing in those areas. And there's been questions about the dog park, and certainly the dog park is on the list, although mowing to increase safety is our first priority. But for folks that are interested in the dog park and the length of grass there, we will try to make sure and get over there in the next week or two. And finally, for the utilities, next week, the city will conduct its annual industrial pre-treatment program facility inspections. The three major industries that are here in North Pole, Marathon Oil, Petrostar, and GPA, push treated water out into our sewer system, and every year we have an annual inspection. The city leads this, but we have our contractor, Mike Polland from NSC Alaska, who provides guidance and provides help with those inspections. But that's an annual inspection, and we'll be doing those next week. And that's all I have for my report, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions from the council.
But, just one question, Mr. Wallace. I've seen a lot of the new street light work done. Are you concerned about the time of season and how much work it remains to get the poles installed and the lights and everything?
It's always a race to get everything done during construction season. I haven't had any indications that they are off track with what they're doing right now. I think the fact that they're driving pilings into the ground will make those installations much easier. Certainly as temperatures decrease, again, I think they're setting themselves up to make sure that those poles go in correctly.
Okay. I do have a question. So Nathan Lee, is that our intern?
Oh, Owen Lau.
What is his name?
Oh, Owen.
Owen? Because I did answer the survey online that you sent, but then I got an email to my city account, and it's from a Nathan Lee, and it says short survey on harassment, threats, and violence in local government. So I didn't know if anyone else on the council had received that, and if that was going to confuse people about the survey that we're doing. And then Nathan from this other group is reaching out to.
Yeah, I don't have any information on that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that about that. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Miss Fogarty. She breathes a sigh of relief that we have a bound audit
Yes, I
in
do.
front of us.
So you have your bound audit in front of you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Jacobson, for coming in and writing a reply letter while the Mayor Welch was out ill. So that was the last piece we were waiting on to bind it. So I do thank you for that. I don't have much to report tonight other than that. After that, last week, we boxed up 2022 and put it away in archives, and now we got some free drawer space, some free office space, and so I feel, a sigh of relief for sure.
Good news is that, as Gary projected, everything in the audits came together at the very last moment. We were able to get this bound and sent off with our application from the fire department to capture the Medicare reimbursements. I learned at our Tuesday staff meeting that we are eligible to capture the year 2022 and also 2023. So that's approximately $230,000 for 2022 and another $230,000 for 2023. At that staff meeting, I discussed that it might be a good idea to take that unexpected windfall revenue and put that aside for the new police station and kind of put that in
Fire
a-
station.
fire station, I'm sorry. New fire station that we've heard about that we need. And so that would be a good, I think, fund balance to start. And then if we have any match needs for grants, we would have that money already set aside, and not that we were expecting $500,000. So That's what I would be recommending the council when we start seeing those reimbursements. Yes.
Yeah, we will be receiving. We will put in.
Thank you for clarifying that. And so I would just direct the council members to look at the last pages of the audit, starting on page 65. That's where they kind of summarize the audit and ask us to respond to their comments. And that's where you get the 2 letters from the Mayor Pro Tem regarding their issues that they raised in the audit. And they were, nothing was unusual other than the fact that, and looking on page 76, especially, this is the status of the audit from 2022. As of today, July 25th, 2023, necessary corrective actions have been made to the general ledger with the appropriate account balances. The total compensation committee will meet this year on July 28th, which we did, August 11th and August 25th to review current staffing level, responsibility, skills, and training requirements and any compensation adjustments. This will possibly include contracting with Altman and Rogers in the interim to provide training and support to the city employees to monitor grant requirement compliance and reporting to provide an accurate schedule of expenditures of federal awards or CEVA. That's one of our vulnerabilities. We have lots of federal grants and they have very strict reporting criteria, and we just don't have the staff available to stay on top of it because it's something that you have to report regularly and by a deadline. And Altman and Rogers is another third party that we could contract to basically manage our grant reporting and take that load off of our city staff. So that's something for the council to consider as we look at the 2024 budget. It's not a criticism or a negative thing about our employees. It's just that federal grant requirements are very complex and no 2 grants are alike.
No. Can I respond to that?
That's a bit.
So the issue really was is we didn't have anybody in the position to file the reports. So now Mr. Wallace is here filing the reports for the Moose Creek project. And so there was a months that we didn't have Mr. Butler before we got Mr. Wallace. And that's the time that they're talking about.
Okay.
So,
So it was the changing of the guards.
yeah, and there was, no one to fill the seat at the time.
Right. It's also good to have a second pair of eyes to help
Oh,
maintain
absolutely.
everything.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're dealing with soft money, grant money. So it's always good to have
Right.
that.
Right. I also sent Altman and Rogers a copy of our audit last week, and we are going to set up a meeting to sometime this week, a Zoom meeting to kind of talk about some of the issues that got brought up, kind of how we can operate a little smoother. One of the things that always gets brought up is the separation of duties, but we're a small office. We don't have one, we don't have one person that's just doing grants and that's all their job is. So, and I don't know that we're big enough to even do that right now, but something to
So-
talk about.
So what they're going to do is look at our organizational structure and see which positions we could perhaps adjust their job responsibilities. So we do have the checks and balances spread out across multiple employees instead of one person doing all of it from A to Z. And that's where you risk having errors and mistakes and unethical, I should say, decisions or actions,
Mhm.
because there's nobody to check their work.
Right.
We also, in the 2024 budget, when we start talking about that, as much as we love Trish, she wants to retire in 2 years. So we'll be looking at possibly bringing in a CPA sometime in 2024 to start learning our system, start draining that institutional knowledge off of Trish, so that when Trish leaves, we've got a fully trained staff in here. And we can also take care of a lot of the projects that haven't been able to get around to, because it's just been a lot of work for a few people.
Sure you don't want to make it in 3 years? I'm messing with you, Trish.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That brings us up to Police Chief Dutra.
This time I'm paying attention.
Oh, it's okay.
All right, so I already went over the first couple things. I just did mention in the earlier meeting that we did lose a recruit at the academy, so we're down one again, but we were fully staffed for a short period of time, so that was kind of nice. We have a couple on the hook we're looking at, so keep you posted on that. We did have a small group attend the memorial service for the fallen heroes. That was nice. I appreciate anybody that did attend that showing. And then I just want to, Officer Bloom is here and he got a great kudos from one of our citizens for helping around. I sent that on to the council. So since he's here, I just wanted to publicly thank him for his efforts, and I appreciate, how the good work that he's doing. So thank you. That's all I got.
Did everyone see that text? Okay. Otherwise, I'll read it into the record.
Yeah.
I want to give a glowing review of one of your police officers. Unfortunately, I didn't get a name, but he's from Minnesota, and I'll send a picture. I just want to say thank you so much to him, and he really is a great representation of your department. I had a flat tire today on the side of the Richardson Highway, and he parked behind me with his lights so cars would move over, and stayed with me while the tow truck came and drove me and my 2 toddlers to the mechanic. He is a blessing, and I really appreciated his help so much. Thank you, Officer Bloom.
And she also brought brownies to the station today, so those are really
Oh,
good.
That's a good payoff.
That's all I have. Well, they're for the police.
Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, that moves on to our city clerk, Melissa.
All right, good evening, you guys. So as you know, our filing period has ended for our open seats on our city council, and today was the last day to withdraw, so they're stuck with us. You guys already know that Ms. Glab already filed, and also filed is Larry Church, who's with us here tonight, and Benny Williams.
Hi,
So
Larry.
that's exciting. I feel like we're gonna have a really good race. I'm super excited about it. So thank you guys for turning in those applications.
So I missed, did we introduce Benny Williams, right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Okay. I've got him in, they're working, but Larry's hiding you, so yeah, he's a good blocker. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Oh, wait.
We'll show the 2 gentlemen on
The camera.
There you go. Well, thank you, both of you, for there we go. There you go. All right. Mr. Williams and Mr. Church, thank you for coming and seeing what it's like to be on the city council. And we wish you well as you are getting to know members of the community so they could vote for you. So thank you for stepping up and wanting to serve your community on the city council. Wish you all the best.
Yes, thank you. So also just a quick reminder to the employees listening that John Ayote with Empower, I probably just butchered his name. Anyways, he's with Empower. He'll be here on August 10th to talk about PERS, and you guys can meet with him individually. If you don't have that link to set up that appointment, let me know and I will get it to you. As Mr. Jacobson mentioned earlier, that Military Defense Forum conference is coming up. If anybody wants to go to that, please let me know and I'll sign you up. Mr. Jacobson, as a reminder, it's your week for the borough rep. And then since you guys already put on the consent agenda, the deputy clerk, and thank you so much for doing that. I really think that this is going to be just the best use of time and energy and manpower. So I appreciate that. However, it does put you on the hook for 2 nights of interviews. So I am going to put those jobs up online tomorrow. The city clerk job along with that deputy clerk / HR job. And I'm going to keep it open until the first week in September. But then I need you guys to commit 2 days to me the week of September 10th. I'm hoping for the 12th and the 13th. It's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And I want to get it down now so that everybody's got it in their calendar. So we all know to be here. I will make sure that there is meals provided for you.
So you said what,
I would like to do it the 12th and the 13th.
that'd be Tuesday, the 12th and Wednesday, the 13th.
Correct.
Is there a conflict with anybody's schedule for those 2 nights?
What time are we talking about?
We're probably talking about evening,
By 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. What time do you get off work?
That's fine, I was just wondering.
Okay. And this is basically, we would have 1 night where we would be interviewing the city clerk applicants. And the second night would be possibly interviewing the deputy city clerk and the HR position. Since the city clerk reports to the council and works for the council, we'll be doing the interviews for both candidates. But when it comes to the deputy city clerk and the HR position, we'll add in a couple other folks to ask HR questions and be kind of a judge of their responses and help us in that decision making. The goal is that we get good candidates for both of those positions. If we really have 2 top city clerk positions, we could always choose one to be the city clerk and offer the second one to be the deputy city clerk and the HR person. So we designed it with that flexibility since hiring these days is challenging. And so we're trying to maximize flexibility to get those positions filled as soon as possible. So are we all in agreement that we'll reserve the evening of the 12th and the 13th for interviews?
I won't be here.
You won't be here?
Forgot.
Uh-oh.
Where you go?
Beyonce.
Do you mind if we continue on? Okay. All right.
Oh, I'll be there. Yeah.
All right. And so if you advertise starting tomorrow will be the 8th. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4. And you say the position will close on September 1 Friday, or are we going to do it September 5th?
I think I might want to leave it open until maybe the 6th, and then that would give us a couple of days to review all of the applications and set up. I'm going to put those dates in that job posting so that people can already be prepared for that.
Right. Excellent. That gives them a month for us to be advertising to get those positions filled.
And you would have a start date as of?
I'm
Approximately?
going to be taking a vacation at the end of September. So I'm hoping for that everybody will be, both of them will be on board for October 2nd, which is actually a meeting. And then we'll throw them right into elections, which is the next day. But, if they have a job already and they need to give a little bit more notice, that gives us a little bit of wiggle room for, the month of October, because that still leaves me with them for that whole month of November, which is bed tax and later on the new council coming on later on in October. So I think that's going to work out perfect.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's coming real quick, right?
Yeah, it is.
And-
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fast and furious.
Yeah.
So I do have one more update. This is the training update on those trainings. So as you can see, we're pretty much right there where we've just got one person who's started the rest of the training. So yeah, we're almost there.
Okay,
That's
all
outstanding.
right.
Very good.
Very exciting.
It is. to have a full blue circle will be great.
That's all I have.
All right. Mr. Skip.
So with that,
The training?
the training, the person that, well, obviously the person that didn't do the training, obviously knows they didn't do the training.
I would imagine. Yep.
Okay. I mean, since you said they started it,
Well, yeah, so, there's one of the trainings that everyone's done except for one person, and then the other one has started them.
okay,
Yeah,
and then I guess their boss kind of knows they're not and kind of saying, hey, you need to press on with this type of thing? Ish,
yes.
okay. So hopefully by next council meeting, it should be done,
I hope so.
okay.
Any other questions of the clerk? Borough representative reports. Do we have anybody who went to the last borough?
That would be me.
All right, I know.
All right, almost the last one I'll be doing for you guys, so. Anyway, meeting on 7/27/23. The most interesting one of these was the ordinance that provides for disposition of property that lies within the city of North Pole. And I figured, well, we're gonna be interesting. I may have a chance to weigh in on this, which was necessary. There are 3 pieces of property that has been conveyed by the tax people because people didn't pay the taxes, some of them as far back as 19. Those 3 pieces of property, we had one person to come up and asked if they could please just push it out or do something. And the whole council, the whole assembly was very willing to do that because they thought it was a really sad story. It's apparently a veteran who has a piece of property with a house on it, and there's another lot next to it. But because there's no mortgage on the lot, for some reason, that one was not, they didn't take money out for escrow. So she didn't pay the taxes on it. So she'll probably, I mean, she has lost control of that particular lot.
She still has their home.
But the home is still there. But then there was also a lot of questions about, did she get all the notices, which she did and signed for, and so on and so forth. And I think that there is definitely a place for us to maybe find a way to assist this veteran who doesn't seem to maybe understand everything that goes in with this and is on 100% disability. And there's something about getting the special exemption for being a veteran and, you know, for the disability and stuff. And there's just a lot of confusion. I'm intending to reach out to this person and see if we can find her some resources. She does have until the end of October, I believe, to pay off that and thereby retain her ownership on it. And there was 2 other pieces of property. One is right next to my own neighborhood right there is the log cabin that burned down a few years ago, and it has been relinquished also. So they had to put this on the table because they all wanted to do something, but very quickly their attorney explained to them the only way that they could set this aside at this point for later was if there was a doubt about whether the process had been followed. And so since they weren't in the right place, they didn't have access to all their files. So while it was on the table, somebody ran back and got the files and showed that they was actually followed to the letter and even beyond. So it was passed, and a little bit later, they actually passed the thing that they could actually sell it. So it will be up for auction somewhere in October, I think it is. No, not in October, in November, once they have had a chance to redeem it if they wanted to. The other ordinance that really pertains to us out here, pertains to the whole borough, is that they appropriated $4 million extra from the general fund to put into the school district. They were discussing whether it needed to be more or less or whatever, but eventually that's what it was. It was $4 million, and the school district was happy about that. So They would have liked more, of course, but, and that would be the end of my report, I think.
Mr. Anton?
Mrs. Walsh, just a point of information, there is the vet center that is off of Old Rich Highway, that's connected almost to Alaska Club. That they might be a good resource for that veteran citizen.
Chief. Old Chief, not Old Rich.
Alaska Club,
By the Alaska Club. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
whichever road that
I
is.
had a long chat with the vet people
Okay.
at the fair the other day, and they
Perfect.
gave me other resources also.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Bouncy house?
Pretty busy right now.
So Thursday night, I will be attending the Borough Assembly meeting. On the agenda is funding $367,000 for the Chena Lake Bike Path pedestrian project, so they might be doing some upgrades at Chena Lakes. Also, they'll be appropriating $400,000 to start the Pioneer Park North parking lot and boat launch project. That whole end of Pioneer Park is going to have a major redo with parking, boat launch, and bike lane and passenger, I should say pedestrian walkway. Also, they have an ordinance that's going to increase how much they will help people swap out their solid fuel burning appliances, meaning wood stoves, pellet stoves, and get them onto a more efficient fuel such as natural gas. I did take advantage of that. If anybody is interested in switching to natural gas, this if ordinance, once it's passed, will increase how much money they will help you with that conversion. Currently, it's $10,000 for the swap out. I'm not sure what the new amount will be. Then also they are doing away with the Early Childhood Development Commission, renaming the Library Commission to the Library and Literacy Commission. They're also changing the John A. Carlson Community Activity Center Advisory Board and changing the duties of the commission, since that's no longer an entertainment center. It's more of a community center for families. That whole Carlson Center has changed its mission. And then also they do have a proposal to allow the school district to use remaining capital project funds from the Ben Eielson High School and Wood River Elementary roof replacement. There's some funds left over in the capital funds, and they're going to authorize them to use it for operating expenses. So even though they did give them $4 million, the school district is still short. So they're letting them use capital dollars for operating dollars. And so I'll be reporting back next time about how things went. All right.
Don't forget you have 5 minutes to give your report.
I think I might stare them down for 5 minutes, see what happens. All right. That moves us on to ongoing projects reports. Is there anything that we haven't heard from our department heads that we need to know about, or city clerk?
Nothing I know.
Have you been getting any submissions of pictures for the website
From the council?
from anybody to help? What? Anton, you did? Well, I haven't either. That's why I'm hoping somebody did, because I'm feeling guilty because I haven't. Come on, guys. We all have smartphones and cameras where we've taken digital photos of North Pole that we could send the clerk to put on our website. No, it's not the bio. We're just talking about the photographs for our website. So come visit us. Look at all the cool things happening in North Pole. That kind of stuff. All right, unfinished business, we have none. Under new business, we have one item, ordinance 2310, an ordinance of the city of North Pole of Alaska to adjust the police department budget. And we have Chief Dutra to talk about that ordinance that is up for introduction.
So I'm asking the council to adjust our budget. This is something we do generally towards the end of each year. If there's surplus funds and we have some pet projects we need to get done, this is kind of what this is. So we have some significant extra funding in our wages, obviously due to lack of, filling those positions for quite some time. So one of the projects that we needed to get done was a evidence processing area in the new garage, the COVID wing, where we currently process evidence on this side of the building in the administrative garage. And then they move it from the cars over to there and then take it from there and move it into the evidence. So what this will do is it'll create a box in the new garage for the officers to pull into that garage, unload the evidence directly into the room, be able to contain all that in one area, shut the door, and have a camera, and be able to process all their evidence in one location and seal it, bag it, label it. And then once it's all done, it can then be transported to the evidence lockers, keeping it out of the general areas where other employees are moving to and from and possibly cross-contaminating. It just makes things a lot neater and cleaner and processing. And what we're asking is to allocate some funding. At $25,000 is what the second one on this fiscal note would be to erect walls just like this that are behind you. And basically it's about 20 feet long and about 6 feet wide. So plenty of room for someone to work in there with a table and supplies, be able to process stuff. So that's what the 25,000, that's half of it. The other half would be used to enclose an office space in our current server room that has, we used to have an office in there back in the day when Scott Dill was here and working our traffic unit. He had an office in there, but it's always been very warm. So we're gonna enclose that area, put a door in there so you can access the server room, and then add some air conditioning units on both sides in order to reduce the heat in that room for the servers and reduce the heat in that room for the office space that's going to be in there. And since we now have a new public safety assistant, we need an extra office space, one for the detective, one for the public safety assistant. So this would accomplish all of those things in one little project. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that. So that's what the $25,000 is from full-time wages into building maintenance. The $30,000 that we're moving from wages and full-time to travel and training is to cover the cost of the academy that we currently have. Well, we had 2 recruits when this was drawn up. We now currently have 1. Cost per recruit is about $14,600. I don't expect this. Since we had 1 recruit drop out, I don't expect we will use half of those funds, but we could do some initial training with our public safety assistant and get him spooled up on some ASALS certification and a couple other things that we've been kind of eyeballing. So we can leave that money in there. If we don't use it, it'll just roll over to the general fund at the end of the year. So rather than messing with the fiscal note, I think we'll just go ahead and leave it there if that's okay with the council. So that's it in a nutshell for those 2 projects.
Question? Is there a motion to introduce and advance this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Second by, moved by Mrs. Welch and seconded by Mrs. Quack to introduce and advance ordinance 2310 to our next meeting for public hearing and possible adoption. Please call the roll on that motion.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Skips, Mrs. Welch, Mr. Jacobson.
Yes. Anyone wish to change their vote? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And that brings us now to item 13, council comments.
Right, Mr. Keller.
I'm trying to figure out what to do with all the smoke in the air. It's not winter time yet. So I hope everyone is healthy and getting cool air. And just continued safety on the roads. Lots of motorcycles and ATVs still. Yeah, and school is starting soon too, so please pay attention to school zones. Even though some of them are not marked as they could be. But watch out for those, especially delays with school buses, as the school buses haven't been on the road for like 3 months. So traffic is gonna be a little interesting for the first couple of weeks. So with that, just watch out for your neighbors, and watch out for kiddos.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott.
I'll pass. Please, everybody be safe and see you next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
No comment.
Thank you, Mr. Skips.
Yes, this weekend starts high school football. So come out and support Northborough High School. They're playing Eagle River Friday night. Well, then it's like it's too smoky to cancel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Welch.
Yeah, just a quick note also, the mayor is so far planning on being away in mid-September for his visit with the Mayo Clinic. Hopefully get some answers on some of his deals there. Right now, he is actually at home recovering from a reoccurring, some kind of a, I don't know exactly what's going on, but he had a concussion a while back, so he's not doing too well. So in the morning, he will see his doctor and they will send him for a CT scan to see if there might be something going on in that can make these headaches come on fast and furious. And it's pretty much, except for a few little things, have been horizontal since. And we appreciate all the people who have said they are praying for him. Really appreciate that. Give the staff here a short break from having him hang around here and be some oversight to everybody. Other than that, the fair is over. I know there's always a lot of negative stuff about the fair. I think the new management, they're really trying to get this up and running. And to all those people who are listening out there, here is what you can do to have a better fair. Enter things into the fair, go support the people that are there, come up with things that you and your children can do to enter into the fair. I had so much fun doing my fair entries, including one that ended up with a division grand prize on that. My fair themed marzipan pig eating the first place zucchini. And the judges had a fun time, I guess, eating the hay bales he was sitting on. So as a treat, a candy treat. So yeah, that we had fun doing all the stuff around the animals. I want to let you know that those people who are saying, well, the fair is the midway or whatever, and the food and stuff. I remember when I grew up in Denmark, the most important part of the thing was, in Danish, a fair is called et dyrskue. If you translate that straight across, it's animal viewing. It was originally, all these fairs were set up for farmers and housewives and people who were doing crafting. That's what those fairs were originally. It was a place to show your wares that you had done all winter, how you put your strawberry jam away and make sure that it is properly secured in a glass jar and preserved the way it's supposed to do, handicrafts, and of course all the animals, so that you could improve upon the traits of the animal, get better milking cows, better goats, better pigs, et cetera, et cetera. That was what it originally was all about, for you to show what you had done with your farming side of it, or your housewife and handyman type stuff. So if we want a better fair, I think we need to take us back to basics. Have your children, do yourself. If you do knitting, if you do quilting, whatever, enter into the fair. It doesn't cost anything. I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. You get a certain amount of money for every first place, and then you just have fun with it and enjoy it. I also got to do the bake off. That was fun. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you, Mrs. Welch, for the world history lesson. And no, really, I'm appreciative of the fact that you entered things into the fair. That's kind of the fun part of the fair for families and young people and old alike to share their talents and their crafts in that part of the fair. I'd like to compliment the public services for the great job they did in the parking lot with the resurfacing and the striping for parking spaces. So thank you very much. Council members, you are responsible for making sure that as many people as you can help them to understand the importance of these two ballot propositions for our city to continue functioning with a water system that is will continue to provide them clean water, and then also for the PFAS to make sure that we have identified and have the ability to clean up any of that contamination. So make sure that in your conversations you explain that a yes is a critical for our city to continue. The total compensation committee met at the end of July. I think our clerk sent out the notes from that. We're asking the department heads this next meeting to kind of give us a wish list of how they would like to have their department staffed and any changes or in pay and things like that. So we're just gathering ideas and synthesizing it. And after those 3 meetings, we'll make a decision if we need to continue on or present what we have to the council and roll that into the budget discussions, because we have basically October in which we have our budget work sessions for the introduction of the 2024 budget in November to make our deadline for the 3 meetings before the budget is adopted at the end of the year. So it's going to be a busy fall, and please keep Mayor Walsh in your prayers. He's gone through a lot of health challenges this last year. And with that, oh, also, I went to Temple on Friday and put the mayor's name on the prayer roll. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
The motion to adjourn?
All right. We have a duo, Mrs. Clark and Mrs. Welsh, both made the motion, and we are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone. Be safe out there. Enjoy the light of the. No, and it's so weird to be